or if you at least somewhat teach Torah. And there's a lot of people that are doing virtual minyanim, like there's Zoom. They're like 10 guys come on and they say Kaddish together virtually. It's like so weird. I don't know. I guess they're reform maybe, but it's just interesting the different. I'm exploring, I'm like what
well,
you're
there's
doing.
Orthodox people doing it also. Chaim Ovadia did a virtual minyan. I don't think there are any serious repercussions for doing that, for having a virtual minyan. Someone had the idea to have a virtual Beit Din for conversion, and that I'm against, because that you're playing with someone's life. One thing if someone performs
the technology age, Rav. I mean, you're
right.
you're a computer guy. Come on, 2020. You can't have everything virtual. You can't put a computer in the shul and just have someone's come in Skype and say Kaddish. Come on, what's going on?
I'm saying that I'm okay with people doing that, but in terms of anything like creating a virtual Beit Din, that I would be against, because it involves other people in the future of your children. I'm having a conversion that's witnessed by people virtually. I mean, it's just not accepted. Now, there are no consequences for davening with a virtual minyan. There are no consequences for it. That means you do it today and then it's gone tomorrow. It doesn't linger on. It's not like you got married and the witnesses to your wedding were there virtually. Technically, I mean, someone could say, I don't accept your marriage because of that. And they'd be in the right for making that decision. In other words, they would have the right to say that they choose not to accept it. While someone can't say that I choose not to accept a marriage or a conversion that's performed in a halachic manner, or a halachic and a traditionally sanctioned or practiced manner. I think it was 7 years ago, we were actually the first ones, at least from an Orthodox perspective, to read the Megillah virtually. When I had in my synagogue, we had a virtual reading of the Megillah, and no one was doing it back then. And this year, there were a lot of people doing it this year.
I mean, that's what I did. I mean, I tried to keep the, halacha. I mean, you're supposed to listen to Megillah, and I just searched YouTube, Megillah reading, and there were people, reading, Ravs or Jewish people reading the Megillah, and I said it was good. I don't know, did I fulfill? Maybe I didn't fulfill the mitzvah to some people, but I thought it was a decent way of enjoying the Book of Esther. Definitely.
So the whole notion of reading Megillah, you could read it alone, but there's certain brachas that you can't say unless you have a minyan. We had a minyan in the place that we were at, and then people were listening to the brachas being said.
And they were answering what, amen? And
I don't know what they were answering, because they were remote. But the guy who did it recently on Facebook, I don't think he had a minyan with him. So I'm curious if he said the brachas or not. I didn't watch the reading, but I know that he read the Megillah, but there's brachas you say before if there's a minyan. Or like maybe because he also has a virtual minyan, that he counts that as the minyan needed to say brachot.
I think if people really want to support this project that you're doing, I don't know what you want to call it, project, whatever. I think even if you have, let's say, a heksher, or if you're even born Jewish, can you, let me ask you this, Rav, I think this would be interesting. Could someone who already converted, or someone born Jewish, could they go to you and be like, I want to be a part of what you're doing, convert me and give me this paper saying that you did this? Could you do this theoretically as a way of support, to say that you believe in this system that you're making? That's kind of a weird question, isn't that?
They wouldn't say a bracha. I guess they could do everything. There's no special bracha for conversion. It's the same bracha people make when they go to the mikvah. I guess it's different because men don't make a bracha when they go to the mikvah. Only women do. Because now, any man who goes to a mikvah nowadays is, I guess, technically for fun, because there's no requirement for it. But while a woman has to go to a mikvah, they'll dip, but a man is not supposed to say a bracha when he goes to the mikvah.
I said that once to the. I went to Chabad for many years, and I said that one time out loud. I said, there was this guy. There was this. Where's the mikvah? I need to get to a mikvah. This guy was losing his mind. He was from Crown Heights, and he's like, is there a swimming pool? Which house has a swimming pool? I'm like, oh, easy.
Because they go every day. That's
easy. So I said to him, easy, buddy. There's no need to even go to a mikvah. You're a guy, and he looked at me like, what? No, like what? It's like he was
no,
like,
you can't tell Acha said that.
I was gonna get stoned, man. That was crazy.
No, I would never tell a chassid that. I mean, he would probably spit in your face. It's just because they go to the mikvah
Well,
every day.
he wasn't that rough, but he understood what I was trying to say. I mean, I was like saying, like, listen, I mean, okay, you're gonna miss out probably. It's almost Shabbos, you're not gonna get there. You know, it's not the end of the world. Technically, you don't have to go. That's how I put it, right? I said technically you're a guy, you don't have to go. And he's like, no. It's like I have.
But for them, they do because they tie it to some Kabbalistic stuff. But there's guys that I know. I don't hang out with too many Chabad guys, but I have friends who are Satmar who haven't missed a day going to the mikvah for maybe 10 years. Even when it's cold. When it's cold, I remember I went with my friend who's Satmar somewhere for Shabbos, and there was no mikvah. And at like 5 a.m. on Shabbos, like he went into a lake that was freezing. I mean, he just did. I mean, these guys, they're hardcore, man. You know, they have to go to a mikvah. It becomes like OCD that they feel that if they don't go to the mikvah, something bad's going to happen to them. And it might be like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe something will bad, but like it's all in their head anyways.
I can understand having like a thing, you know, some people have, I think some more modern Orthodox that do it right the day before Shabbos. They do it once a week before Shabbos. Or like I know a lot of people think.
I don't think that's a modern Orthodox thing. That's still a Haredi thing. I mean, modern Orthodox men don't go to the mikvah, right? Unless they're getting married.
Right. Well, there's other things.
Or Yom Kippur.
Like, I know there's some people that believe like if you have impure thoughts or something, like you should go to a mikvah or things like this nature. Like I can understand somewhat like the logic to that. Okay, you want to get cleansed, you want to have like a baptism of sorts, but to go every day, that's like wow.
Well, I mean, impure thoughts you have every day. I mean, what does that mean?
Actually, I don't think we ever spoken about this before. If someone has to go, or the reasons not to go, and what are the Torah reasons to go for a man to go to a mikvah? Because we know that it does appear in the Torah that a Balkiri, I mean, someone who has a seminal emission come out of him, that he must bathe his flesh with water. Does that actually mean going to the mikvah? The rabbis later understood it like that, but this means that they are impure and need to be purified. And this is in Vayikra, chapter 15. And then it says that they're going to be unclean until evening. Now, why isn't this practice today? Well, the understanding is that any purification that had to do with being allowed to enter the temple was put aside when there was no temple, because that was the initial reason. As a matter of fact, in the Talmud, it speaks about Prushim, that what made them weird and stand out is that they kept ritual purity that was tied to the temple when there was no longer a kosher temple to go to, or even a temple to go to. And that made them stand out, that made them weird. It made them separate. I mean, that's what being Prushim means. Now, this is one reason that Hasidim gives to go to the mikveh, but I think the most famous one is what's known as Takanas Ezra, or Tevilas Ezra. So what's Takanas or Tevilas Ezra? So Ezra decreed that men who are in a state of impurity are prohibited from learning Torah unless they first purify themselves. And then later, Chazal extended this decree to prohibit even davening without them first going to a mikveh. And again, this is what was called Takanas Ezra, also known as Tevilas Ezra. But then later on, Chazal abolished the Takana completely on the basis that, one, it wasn't really accepted by the bulk of the Jewish people, and two, it caused people to learn less Torah because they weren't able to learn unless they first went to a mikvah. So this is why it's no longer applicable. And this is something that people really have to understand, especially those being brainwashed to believe that everything that's rabbinic was given on Mount Sinai as well as the Torah, that what's rabbinic changes, that there could be one halacha today and it won't be there tomorrow because the court has the authority to override these laws. They can't override Torah laws, but it could override rabbinic laws. And this is why men today could go to a mikveh in a swimming pool, because they don't really have to go to a mikveh. So any body of water is kosher for them.
But no one who goes to the mikveh nowadays as a man says they're going because of Kiri or because of Takanas Ezra. They'll say that they're going for spiritual reasons to symbolize a new birth. It's very similar to, as much as Hasidim don't like to align themselves with Christians, it's more similar to the baptism that John the Baptist was doing to symbol a rebirth than anything else, because it wasn't necessary back then and it wasn't necessary today. It's something that could be devotional, could be meaningful to you, but it didn't do anything. It wasn't mandated that people should baptize themselves for their sins. I mean, for sins you repent, for sins you bring a sacrifice or you pay back. But baptism to just symbol new birth, I guess from a Kabbalistic perspective, a daily new birth, is something made popular by Christianity.
Well, I mean, the Zohar says that God recreates the world every day, so I guess it makes sense that a Chabad guy would go every day. He's reborn every day. Oh, whatever. I guess
I'm not against them doing it, and they also don't walk around saying that you have to do it. They say this is something we do. Yeah. And also, like, if they start saying that everyone should do it, I mean, they're not going to be any mikvahs for them because everyone's going to be doing it. Or maybe then people will build more mikvahs. I mean, like, we performed a lot of conversions in Chabad mikvahs because there's mikvahs here that are open 24 hours a day that are particularly Chabad mikvahs that you just leave tzedakah. So we've taken advantage of that and dunked a lot of people like 3 years ago in their mikvah. So we also left tzedakah.
I've been told that according to halacha, according to Mishnah Torah, that you first have to build a mikvah before you build a shul. Is this correct?
It says that in the Mishnah, yeah. Yeah, the Rambam brings it down. The first is a mikvah, then a school. Well, the school is the Beit HaKnesset.
It's interesting how a mikvah would come first.
Yeah, well, that's a necessity because where are women supposed to dip themselves?
Dishes, do anything. I mean, you can pray anywhere, right? I mean, you can pray in the parking lot if you want to.
Synagogues back then were more houses of study. It really wasn't until the advent of Kaddish that people went to synagogue religiously to say their prayers. People worked for a living. To say they had to walk to the synagogue in the morning, in the afternoon, and the evening to pray, that was unheard of. People used to pray just like Muslims pray nowadays during construction in Israel. There, like, you see Muslims with their little rug and they just pray wherever, and only if they're yeah. So this thing of because nowadays people have cars. Even the tallis, the tallis nowadays has become a religious garment that people only use during synagogue, but it was never understood like this. People either had clothing that had 4 corners on it or they didn't. And then later on, a custom arose to get a ceremonial piece of cloth and put like tassels on it. And this became the talit gadol. Now, people did initially wear one of these, but it was only men of the Sanhedrin. The men of the Sanhedrin would wear a big talit to judge in, and they would put it over their heads. But this in some way got translated into this is what you wear in a synagogue. But this is later on.